Oh, hi, audience. What's up? It's Greg Sestero here to introduce you to the True Blue RiffCast, where they talk about amazing movies, bad movies, and everything in between. So you're listening to the True Blue RiffCast. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Greg. This is the True Blue RiffCast, the number one RiffTrax fan. Perfect way to start the podcast.
Thank you, Greg. It's me, Dave, aka Sugar Ray Dodge, and you're listening to the True Blue RiffCast, the number one podcast of RiffTrax in the world. And I'm joined, as always, by...
Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm the guy who usually does the intros, but this time I tripped over my own tongue because I can't get what sound out of my head, Dave.
Run away! Run away! Run away! Run away! Oh my gosh,
Yes,
was that Bigfoot?
That classic Bigfoot call.
Run away! Run away! Run away! Run away!
If you haven't been paying attention to RiffTrax,
people who have not seen Suburban Sasquatch have no idea what's going on right now. They're like, "What is wrong with my podcast machine?" And they're like touching like the screens of their computer, or if they're listening to this in their cars, they're like touching like the face of like their radio or their cassette players, or however old it is. All you old people who listen to RiffTrax and MST3K, because we're all way old now.
Who copy the podcast onto cassette and listen to it.
Yeah, they copy the podcast onto cassette so that they can have a compatible media in their old cars. I don't think there have been cassette players in cars since like 2001. We're already wildly off the rails.
How's it been in the last 5 days since we recorded, Dave?
Oh, we just did one of these, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. We got a little postponed last week because of work scheduling and all that fun stuff. But we're back on track this week, and yeah, we've got a lot to talk about, guys. In case you didn't know, with the wonderful call of the Bigfoot there, we're going to be talking about the latest release from RiffTrax, Suburban Sasquatch, and we are also going to be talking about the winner of our last patron poll, Manos, the Hands of Fate, RiffTrax Live version, specifically.
From 2012. You want to know what else we're going to be talking about? Are you ready?
What? Yeah.
You're going to have to edit that out because I just opened a Coke on mic.
Yeah, you did. And you're slurping it, and I really appreciate that.
That is correct.
Noise,
right there in your ear and everyone else's ear. I am way too slap happy for it being. It is 9:14 p.m. There's no reason for me to be this slap happy already. But hey,
no. I think you're just excited about the content of this podcast today.
I am, dude. Suburban Sasquatch.
We'll get to that one in just a minute.
The endorphins are released into my brain just thinking about those areolas.
Oh man. First, let's take a look at the winner of our last patron poll. As I mentioned, RiffTrax Live, Manos, the Hands of Fate, that went up against Cool as Ice last week, and it actually was a tie in the vote. And since it's our poll, we just did Manos because that's what I wanted to talk about today.
I was about to say there was a tie.
So for those of you who somehow have never seen Manos, the Hands of Fate.
Okay, look, first of all, I don't think that's possible. Anybody listening to this podcast who doesn't know what Manos, the Hands of Fate is, I'm sorry, I don't think that's possible. I don't think that person exists.
There's a chance. Maybe it's somebody who's newly converted into RiffTrax and didn't grow up with Mystery Science Theater.
What converted them? Feeders? Flight 285.
Attack of the Super Monsters.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. Anyway, Manos, The Hands of Fate. The movie itself was originally released back in 1966.
That is a long time ago, sir.
Yes, directed by Harold Warren, who basically made the movie kind of on a bet.
That's the lore, yes.
He was bragging that, anybody can make a movie, and someone told him, well, go ahead and do it. And so here we are. He was a fertilizer salesman.
Probably after. Yeah.
Because this movie ain't great.
Also, okay, but do you want to know what the part of the bet was? This is part of the lore. Is that what's his name? Harold Warren?
Yeah.
Went out and be like, it wasn't just that the bet that he could make a horror movie. He could make a horror movie based on like what equipment that he had or like within a certain budget. And he either came across, acquired, or he went out and he bought the actual camera that Abraham Zapruder used to film the JFK assassination, and shot Manos: The Hands of Fate with it, and then went back and put it in the Smithsonian. That's a joke. What I'm saying is that the cinematography and the camera that they used in this movie is just downright terrible.
Camera, like it could not record audio. It was.
Oh, that's right.
It was video only, and it was like hand wound, and it shot a very short amount of film at a time. And so they had to go in, and that's why some of the characters sound so weird. Like that's why Debbie sounds like a middle-aged woman, because she had to be dubbed over because the camera didn't record sound.
And by Debbie, of course, you mean our friend Jackie. She's a very, very lovely woman. She's both of our friends, and she played Debbie in Manos: The Hands of Fate, the child.
Yes.
I just thought that I would say that we know her. I have another story about her that I've told on the podcast previously, so I won't bring that up again.
Yeah, and they did, just as a side note, they did just release a sequel for Manos called Manos Returns, available now on Amazon Prime Video.
I think you can rent it for like $2.
Yeah, it's like $1.99 rental, or if you have Prime, you can just watch it without paying anything extra. So go check that one out. Just a little plug there. But yeah, this movie is famously panned for being terrible.
People like threw their shoes at the screening. It's very much like, I think, like the lore around a screening is very much akin to the lore on the very first screening of The Room or the first screening of The Apple, where it's kind of a combination of both of them. Where by the end, like in The Room, everyone was like uproariously laughing, and by the end of The Apple, people were throwing things at the screen. And they're like little chunks of whatever it is that they're throwing were actually embedded in the screen when they first screened The Apple. Here it was a little bit of both. In fact, I think I read somewhere that they actually, like, Jackie as a young child cried.
Yeah, she heard her voice, her dubbed over voice for the first time.
Yeah.
And people started laughing at the movie. And then when you're a little kid, when you're like, oh, I'm in this movie, this is going to be great. And then to see that kind of a reaction, it's going to be upsetting to you.
Yeah, you can't process that. Yeah.
No.
Anyway, so what happens in the movie? I guess we should get a little bit of that going on.
A family is taking their first ever vacation, and they're looking for Valley Lodge, and they get lost and end up with Torgo.
Yeah, this very clearly, like, out in the, like, it looks like something that these people, like this cult or whatever it is, full of like ladies where they worship Manos. It looks like an abandoned squatter cabin. It's yeah, I can't imagine anybody's paying rent in this place. And when they get out, they're like, "Hey, Torgo, We're gonna, and they actually tell Torgo. Torgo is the servant of the master.
Half
This,
man, half goat.
Yeah, this enigmatic, this enigmatic figure they call the master. Half man, half goat. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what Torgo was supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like the master would not approve. Right. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. And he has like these weird knee braces on underneath his pants.
Famously, he had them on backwards,
and
it caused him a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
And it caused him to start using some drugs or use drugs more, and that led him to unpleasant end.
Yeah, that man is no longer with us. He wasn't with us for very much longer after the shooting of Manos, the Hands of Fate.
No, I think he passed before the premiere of the movie.
That's terrible.
Yeah. This I'm just gonna say it. This movie, and we've said this before with other things, like especially The Room. This movie isn't as bad as everyone makes it out to be. In my opinion, it's bad.
It's pretty bad.
Good. There is a good movie hiding in there. If anybody involved had any level of competence, it would have been a better movie. I can't say a good movie, anything like that, but I think the concept was there. It was just everything else was lacking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, well, I'll give it this. As long as, like, I'll take what you're going and I'll put what I'm about to say onto that, just like, and I'll just take it a little bit further. The story, and there is one, believe it or not. The story is very much like Dracula, or at least that very first part of Dracula where you have Jonathan Harker trapped with Count Dracula there in the castle, right?
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but actually I don't hate to say it because I've said it many times. I don't think that the 1931 Dracula is a pile. It's not good. So I think that maybe if because Plan 9 from Outer Space had Bela Lugosi in it, if Bela Lugosi had been in Manos, the Hands of Fate, you know? In fact, that's a good comparison. Let me ask you this. Which do you think, okay, out of the two famous, one was on Mystery Science Theater, the other was not. Plan 9 from Outer Space and Manos from the Hands of Fate, both are heralded as the worst movie ever made. Which is, out of the two, which is actually the worst movie ever made?
Between the two of them?
Between the two of them. Between the two of them, which is worse? Plan 9 from Outer Space, which I don't even think we've talked about on True Blue Riffcast, and we should. But we'll save that for another time. Plan 9 from Outer Space or Manos, the Hands of Fate. If you had to pick one, which is actually worse?
I'm gonna say, you know what? I'm gonna say Manos is worse, but I like it more.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That's actually a completely fair assessment that that I can't counter and give some kind of other opinion on, because it's quite correct, and I find myself sharing that sentiment. So yes, I would say I agree with Jeremy that Manos is worse, but I like it better. And I like Plan 9 too. But
yeah, I think as a movie without the riffs, I enjoy Manos a little bit more. Now, they have released a couple different versions of this movie riff. Obviously, there was the original riff of it with Joel back on MST3K, which was everybody's first exposure to this movie. And then RiffTrax did it live, and then they did a separate studio version. The live show version,
which is the same jokes. It's the same jokes as the live version.
Yeah. And the live show version, we get the little extras at the beginning, the shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there's, the crowd reaction, which always adds to it. But this one brought us
Norman.
Yes, that was our first exposure
to Norman Krasner.
Norman, welcome back, Norman. Yeah, we got welcome back, Norman. The wonderful, wonderful short about the sad sack of a man coming home from a business trip and the series of unfortunate events that befall him. And I know we've talked about that before. And we've actually talked about all of the Norman shorts before last season on our podcast.
Yes,
so
we have seasons now.
Yes, we have seasons because we've been doing this for a long time.
We've been doing this for like, what, a year now? Holy shoot.
Yeah, almost exactly a year. But we also get the prune juice short on this one.
Do we? Is it this one that's the prune juice? I think you're right. I haven't watched it in a long time. Edit that part out, yeah.
Well, that's the thing. See, normally, well, no, I'm going to leave that in because normally when we are preparing for the podcast, we have to rewatch the riffs that we're going to talk about. Manos, the Hands of Fate is so ingrained in my head from the number of times that I've watched it. I really didn't have to watch it again before recording this episode.
Yeah, me neither. Like the movie itself, it's just like I've seen it probably like 11 billion times. But also, for some reason, I couldn't remember if the prune juice short was at the beginning of the live show. But that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Welcome back from the edit, everybody. So, Jeremy.
Yes, sir.
Would you say at the time, or even now, Manos, the Hands of Fate live show, for everything it brought us, would you say, and this was back when RiffTrax Live only did like 2 shows a year. I mean, well, now they're only doing not 2 shorts, but 2 shows a year. Because at that time, I think the year before there had only been 1 live show, and it was Jack the Giant Killer, and then the next year it was Manos the Hands of Fate, and then Birdemic in October. But I remember going into Manos the Hands of Fate just like super excited to get this new take on Manos, and that RiffTrax is actually doing Manos, and like, oh my gosh, because it really had not been done before with RiffTrax doing a riff that had been done previously on Mystery Science Theater 3000. It was kind of like an unspoken thing where they just didn't do anything that they did on MST3K, because at the time, it was 2012, they are still mostly doing big blockbusters, so when it came out, that'd be like, oh, we're going to be doing Manos. It was like a big buzz. It was like, oh my gosh, this is like, it was like you could like feel the energy and the excitement of them doing Manos, the Hands of Fate live. And when you got into the theater, and you could still feel that palpable energy, is like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. And then it was so much fun.
Oh, it was amazing.
Would you say that Manos, the Hands of Fate, this is 2 parts, up to that point was the best RiffTrax Live they had done? And the second part is, have they been able to do a live show since then? Because I think that was the 6 live shows that they've done. And since that time, they have done 24 more. In those 24 other shows that they've done since June or July or whenever it was of 2012, have they been able to top Manos?
I don't think. I mean, I think some of the content has been at least as entertaining, but I don't think really. Maybe with the exception of the reunion show,
that's right.
I don't think they've really captured that same anticipation level. I mean, it was pretty high for me for Miami Connection and Samurai Cop and Space Mutiny and stuff like that. But I think I was the most excited for Manos.
I can only think of one experience that kind of topped Manos for me, and obviously that was Mothra going there to see it live.
Yeah.
You'll get there someday, Jeremy. But no, in all seriousness, really, that's kind of like the only thing that can really, in my mind, that could like really top Manos. I mean, Starship Troopers was one that was super fun to build up to because that was like the first big blockbuster that they did, but still. Birdemic, kind of. But Manos, you think back, it's like, it seems like it was just the other day that they did that, and now it's like 8 years since they did. Yeah, 8 years ago was Manos: The Hands of Fate. RiffTrax Live, Manos: The Hands of Fate. Time flies.
One other thing to mention about this before we move on. Actually, two. There was one other short with this one. It was At Your Fingertips Cylinders.
Oh, that's right.
Because they made the kid made the robot, and then out of like toilet paper tubes, and
okay,
into a kite and like flew it away. But the DVD release for this live show includes a special bonus feature, 30 minutes of outtakes from the original Manos movie that had never been seen anywhere before.
Oh, I didn't know that. I got that for a Christmas present for my sister. If I had known that, I would have kept it for myself.
And it's got the outtakes have commentary by Mike, Kevin, and Bill.
Oh, well, see, now I have to go rob her house.
Or just order another copy of the DVD.
It's true. Is it still available?
Yeah, it's still available. But yeah, that alone makes it worth buying it on disc. Because they never showed that anywhere. That was the only way to see it. I don't know if they have that on like the Blu-ray of Manos that they released. The non-rift version. I'm sure it's got a bunch of special features on it. But this being able to watch outtakes for this movie and getting commentary by Mike, Kevin, and Bill, that's well worth the $13.
I might have to get that now.
I'm excited.
It's so exciting.
I can't contain myself. Now we can talk about one of the greatest releases from RiffTrax since The Visitor.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. I think it's probably the best. I mean, Attack of the Super Monsters was awesome. So was Lovely but Deadly.
Yeah.
What are some other releases? I know you liked Feeders 2 a lot.
That I did. And this movie is kind of similar to Feeders and Feeders 2 in a way, in the fact that it's total crap and shot on.
Yeah, there's this garbage shot on video, like low contrast, no microphone, completely incompetent. Polonia Brothers, but not really.
Yeah. And still somehow better than Birdemic.
Yeah. We'll get to that.
I shouldn't say somehow. But yeah, we're talking, of course, about the newest release, Suburban Sasquatch, the video from 2004.
Anyway, that's the
by Dave Wescavage.
I think it's Dave Wescavage is how you say that.
I don't know. I think it's Wescavage.
Dave Wescavage, because I actually went onto the internet and I watched some behind the scenes stuff, and the guy pronounces his name Dave Wescavage.
I was just going by what they said in the riff.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying.
Honestly, Dave, not you, Dave, but the director and writer of this movie, Dave, I don't really care.
Okay, so Jeremy, walk us through this as best you can.
Oh my God. Okay.
Walk us through the plot. I mean, we're not even going to get into the special effects or the costume or anything like that. I want you to explain to me, walk me through the plot of Suburban Sasquatch. Ready, go.
So there's a Bigfoot, and he can teleport, and he makes a very annoying war cry or whatever you want to call it.
That's not part of the plot. Yeah.
I don't care.
We're just talking about plot, Jeremy.
It's part of the plot. He's killing a bunch of people in a suburban development, and there's a couple police officers who are totally useless, and there's a Native American warrior who is trying to hunt this Bigfoot with some gem-tipped arrows. And there's a reporter trying to do his job, and the police won't. Well, one police officer calls him to the scenes of all these murders, and the other police officer makes him leave. And he finally meets the Native American warrior after his grandma tells him to go out to the scene of one of the murders and wait for a sign from God. And they successfully eventually explode the Bigfoot.
The end, or is there like some drawn out kind of garbage denouement where
the warrior and the reporter walk off into the sunset hand in hand so she can go hunt more creatures?
And what's he gonna do? Is he gonna report on it, or
he's gonna help her? Because shocking twist, he's the one who actually blew up the Bigfoot.
Oh, is it? Because why is that? Like why is he like the chosen one? What's the deal? Because he seems like kind of like he's a big freaking loser.
What'd they say? He was the guy that the word doofus was invented for?
Yep, that's true.
And that is 100% true. Like, oh my gosh, this movie.
He can't even buy shirts that fit him. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's start with one of the elephants in the room. We'll get to the other gigantic elephant in the room here in just a second. But let's start with the one that is, a little less hilarious, is the fact that the reporter guy who is going around trying to get a Pulitzer Prize. That's how the man says it. He says, like, I need to go out. Oh, you're my best chance of getting a Pulitzer.
Yeah. You're talking about the editor who is very clearly working from a classroom of a school.
Yes.
And I say this because in one of the scenes that he's in, you can see all of the children outside for recess.
Yes. So yeah, it's like they shot it during somebody's work hours.
Yeah.
So the guy, and he's wearing this shirt, and he never changes the shirt. Like nobody, we're to assume that the plot of this movie is stretched out over several days. Correct?
I think so. It's kind of hard to tell because there's a lot of inconsistencies in whether or not a scene takes place during the day or at night.
Well, I mean, definitely some scenes take place at night, because you can see that they blued the screen to do day for night. Okay, so definitely time passes. But this guy wears the same kind of brown ringer tee shirt that is like 5 or 6 times too big. Okay, look, I've worn shirts that kind of are that kind of drown me, but they're still somewhat proportionate to I don't go out there. I'm a skinny guy, kinda, but I'm just saying that I don't go out and buy fat people clothes, which is what this guy does. Not only is this shirt, and I say this because it's just so extremely distracting throughout the entire movie, is that the collar the ringer part of his ringer tee,
yeah,
stretches all the way out to his shoulder blades. I'm not even kidding.
No, he's not. You know what's more distracting in the movie with him? The 2 times that he has his shirt off.
Ugh. Yes.
And that's not even as disturbing as the Bigfoot with his shirt off.
Yeah, he is a very oddly shaped human being.
Yeah.
As long as we're talking about that, we might as well get to the other gigantic elephant in the room. is that Bigfoot has a gigantic pair of disgusting boobs. I mean, there really is no other. I mean, like the costume, they look like gigantic, really like if you took a stripper and like did like a paper mache cast of her fake boobs and like put an abdomen or something like right underneath them and like stuck it in an oven and pulled it out and glued it onto a bunch of matted fur.
In a gorilla
That
costume?
is what the that is what the costume of the Bigfoot looks like. And the nipples on this thing are so distractingly huge.
Big nipples, big life.
And they're kind of like, they're not even like what real nipples kind of look like. They're concave. They're like inverted.
They're like saucers from a like a cup and saucer, and they're just like glued in. Not glued on, glued in.
And again, we're talking about this so much, we're going into a crazy amount of detail about this, is because it's so prevalent. I don't even know if that's the right word. Dictionary.com, help me out. Prevalent, is that the kind of word that I want to use? Doesn't matter. It's so right there in your face that every time Bigfoot is on screen, the only thing that is distracting you from Bigfoot's boobs is the sound that Bigfoot is making. And it's like this for an hour and 17 minutes or whatever the runtime is. And Jeremy, I've talked about Big Shirt Guy, and I've talked about Bigfoot's boobs and Bigfoot's noise. Will you please talk about the manner in which Bigfoot kills people?
Well, he has a few different methods that he follows.
Right.
He likes to smack people in the face and send them flying with the hilarious sound effect. In fact, all of the sound effects in this movie are hilarious because they are terrible.
They're like Looney Tunes stocks. It's kind of like Looney Tunes sound effects that are trying to sound real.
Yeah, there's a campfire that they put some sound effects over that don't match the campfire.
They could have just put a microphone next to an actual fire.
Yeah. Bigfoot also likes to tear people's arms off, and then he eats them, which is interesting.
Not only eats.
Well, he drinks the blood out of, and he throws the hands at other people and makes them go flying also.
Flying into like bodies of water that may or may not be like sewage runoff.
There's one guy that he rips his guts out of his stomach and then shoves them in his mouth. Like the guy that he doesn't shove them into his own mouth. He shoves them back into the guy's mouth.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't eat. Yeah, be like, here, eat this. We don't know why that happens. Like why Bigfoot makes a guy eat his own guts.
Yeah, it
makes no sense.
We don't actually know why he's attacking people either. Like it seemed like they were kind of going into a overdeveloping is bad environmentalist kind of thing, but it just kind of falls out and nothing happens with it. Like they're talking like, oh, I don't know why he's doing this. It's like his time is almost up, or he's looking for something more. Okay, but what?
It's kind of like they tried to have themes, but then they don't follow up on it. It just kind of like falls off a cliff.
Every time the Native American warrior shoots her bow and arrow at Bigfoot, the arrows are CG. The blood that comes out of Bigfoot is CG. There's like a redneck hunting party,
and it's always that same kind of like. It's always that same. Let's talk about the CG for just a second, since you brought it up. When Pocahontas or whatever, I don't know if I should use that term, but when
welcome
Native
back from
American
the
warrior lady, yes, it was innocent enough until I realized maybe that's not the best term to use. she shoots her CGI's arrows into Bigfoot's boobs. And it's always that same weird kind of like blood splurt animation that comes out of Bigfoot, whether he gets shot in the boobs or whether he gets shot in the arm or whatever. It's always like that high velocity, bleh, like, like digitized blood that comes out of him. It's just that same animation over and over and over.
Most
again.
of the time, it's
But
actually
Bigfoot never
red
seems
too.
Yeah. But Bigfoot never really, it doesn't ever really seem to hurt Bigfoot.
No.
So, but, let's talk about the rest of the CGI that is in this movie, because that is interesting as well. Okay, so they have CGI tomahawks.
Yep.
Where she takes them out and she throws them, there's a CGI log where they break and do that. There's that.
There's a CGI door that Bigfoot breaks through while the other door is open right next to it.
Well, it's right there. It's really hilarious. And then there's a
sometimes part of Bigfoot is CGI over top of the regular costume. One of the members of the redneck hunting party throws a tiny net over Bigfoot's head, and while he's laying on the ground,
and it's still like waving around.
The net is CG while he's on the ground. When he's standing up, it's not CG. It's an actual little net.
There's a movie out there that I hate. It's called The Amazing Bulk.
Oh God.
And I dare say when I saw that net in Suburban Sasquatch, I was like, "Oh my God, that is worse than the CGI in The Amazing Bulk." That net right there.
No.
I have found the CGI that is worse than The Amazing Bulk. What are you're saying no, which means you're disagreeing with me.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I had pushed that movie out of my brain. And you're forcing it back in there, Dave, and I don't appreciate it. But I'm also incredulous that you say that it's worse than anything that was in The Amazing Bulk.
At least the things that are the Amazing Bulk, with the exception of The Amazing Bulk himself, is stuff that it was that was like part of like a pre-made program, right? That was made by animators and stuff. He just uses it extremely poorly.
And that's putting it lightly.
That net. I mean, I'm going to harp on this net because it's like the worst CGI thing I've ever seen. There is no way that that's part of some library that's included in any CGI animation software, because no designer is going to go like, here, use this. It's part of your license. Like, that's no. They could have go out and buy like a real, like, and that's just like the weirdest thing to make a CGI is a net. Like, you couldn't go to True Value or Lowe's or someplace and like, yes, I would like a net big enough to capture a Bigfoot, and everyone will go, right this way, please, right, and we'll get you your net. Here you go. There are nets. You don't need to make a CGI net.
No, it was they had a real physical net on him. It was bad. It was very bad. But there was some CG in here that, while still terrible, is better than other similar CG in a different RiffTrax featured movie.
Before we get to that, because that's the piece de resistance in all this, there's one other effect I want to talk about before we get to what you're talking about. And it's kind of like, there's a scene where Bigfoot is harassing one of our police guy friends, right? And he's rocking it back and forth. And he goes and he picks the car up. And it's like a JPEG. It's like a totally different kind of CGI. It's a JPEG of the police car. Picks it up, and you can tell like the animation is just like, it's like 4 frames of animation. Like, and then he throws it, and then they use the software to make the JPEG turn. When they could have just left it flat, they made it turn like so that it would be cool. And he throws the car, And it's just like, why? Like, okay.
You know what it reminds me of? Supersonic Man and the bulldozer that he picks up.
That's well, okay. Well, that wasn't that, but that wasn't a special effect.
No, that was
that was
bulldozer.
Supersonic Man lifting. That was Supersonic Man. That was a real bulldozer they made out of wet lumber. And Supersonic Man lifts it up above his head, and the bug just like goes around him. And then they make a deal that it's like the steamroller. It wasn't a steamroller. What would a steamroller be doing out in the middle of like New Hampshire, New York? But anyway, we've talked about Supersonic Man on this podcast before. Go back and find whatever the hell episode that was, because I don't know. It's probably like a year ago. But anyway, so that's like the other one bit of CGI that kind of, and of course they have like the standard CGI where he like crushes people's heads.
And it's that same blood splurt.
Yeah, it's that same blood splurt. Oh, anyway. But getting back to you before because I really like, I talk about this guy so much and I hate him. And if you know why, you know why. And if you don't, we're not going to explain why. Just Google it, but go ahead.
So you may remember another RiffTrax movie that used really terrible CGI birds. I think it's called Birdemic Shock and Terror.
Birdemic Shock and Terror, yes, by James Wen, my favorite man in the whole world, yes.
The one thing that Suburban Sasquatch has over that movie, effects-wise, is its birds.
It's titular bird, not its titular birds, but it would be titular in terms of Birdemic. Yes. Where James Wen uses clip art birds, you can kind of tell that I think that all the effects in Suburban Sasquatch were built for Suburban Sasquatch.
They do seem to be.
None of it's clip art. And the birds are more realistic in this. I mean, and this is the second time. Like how many times have we seen Birdemics in movies where like birds attack? I know it was like we saw Birdemics in the Visitor. Yep. There was a Birdemic in that.
Yep, right towards the end.
It just seems to me that whenever there's like a bird attack in a RiffTrax movie, it's always better than Birdemic.
And Birdemic's whole deal was the bird attacks.
To be fair, half of the movie was about solar panel deals and getting it on with Victoria's Secret models and global warming and, bleh.
Yeah.
And horse pee and pumpkins. And hanging out with your family.
Having ourselves a party.
But then we get to the titular bird attacks, and then it's just like nothing but like terrible CGI birds. But every time we see a bird attack, I mean, Dave Miscavige was able to do birds better than James Wen.
So there you go,
so,
Dave.
James, screw you, buddy.
Dave, at least you have that over James.
Yeah, because it's totally useful. You
can put that on your resume.
It's a real victory for me, isn't it?
Seriously, guys, Suburban Sasquatch.
This
are so good. And okay, I'm gonna spoil the ending because I don't care. It's a RiffTrax thing. It's not like this is high art or a Marvel movie or something that people get upset about spoilers for. So at the end, Schlubby
Native American warrior was a Palpatine.
Schlubby reporter Rick picks up the Native American warrior's bow and arrow off the floor of his grandma's house where Bigfoot is. He says a quick prayer to guide the arrow true, and he Hawkeyes the arrow right into Bigfoot's heart. And then Bigfoot starts shooting out electricity, and then it explodes. Like, what?
Okay.
Like, how? I don't... He had
Was he
to
the
have been.
chosen one?
I mean, she did carve him the turtle of protection.
Was he a Palpatine?
I think Bigfoot was, the way he was shooting out lightning. I don't know.
What a world! What a world!
And then, of course, we got one of our favorite
What a
happenings in any
world!
RiffTrax release.
Is whenever we have a great post credits deal. I don't think we've really had a really good one since a Talking Cat.
RiffTrax House after a Talking Cat was the last really big one. There
The
were a few
RiffTrax
things
House.
here and there that we got little short things in VODs and whatnot, but this is the first one since a Talking Cat that I can recall anyway that went through the entire list of credits, and the lady who plays the grandma is actually Loretta Wiscavage, and
Wascavage.
she is singing this song. I don't know what the title of it was. It does not matter.
I don't think it matters
matter at all. Because the song is about as good as the movie.
Which means it's awesome.
As soon as the movie ends and the credits start, Kevin started saying something to Mike and Bill, but they were already gone. They had already departed the film at that point.
Yeah, they were just like they just noped out. Yeah,
and the music started up, and Kevin started to become entranced, and he picked up a shaker and started shaking it along, and and then he got his triangle out and started playing along with the song, and after that song ended, he kind of woke up and, from his little blackout where he was entranced, and it's a wonderful thing. Kevin, we love you, and anytime you do anything with music, it is beautiful.
Yes, keep doing that, my friend. We love.
And this was
we love you.
Suburban Sasquatch is 100% a must buy. Like, seriously, guys, if you didn't buy it, you need to. You absolutely need to watch this.
I would dare say this is the best RiffTrax since a Talking Cat. So the best RiffTrax in 2 years.
It very well could be. It's definitely surpassed The Visitor from last year.
And we loved The Visitor.
For me. Yeah. And this is easily, to this point, the best release of 2020.
Oh, absolutely. Easily. I mean, look, love Lovely but Deadly. But man, this is just I dare say that this is the kind of movie that RiffTrax needs to be doing all the time, like on a regular basis. It's just like weirdo stuff that was shot after the year 2000, independent, like not even B movie, direct to DVD kind of thing. Just go out and find the weirdest, worst independent movies that you can. Stuff that's like Suburban Sasquatch. It's out there, man. Find that stuff. It's
like Project Declassified.
I don't even know what that is, but it sounds great.
It's amazingly terrible. That's the one with Samurai Grandpa in it.
I don't know who that. But Samurai Grandpa? What?
Yeah. It's somebody's grandpa, and he's a samurai. It's just somebody's grandpa.
Okay, the audio could I was just completely silent, but if there was visuals of my face, you could just see me just being so incredulous right now. Like, what the hell are you talking about? But anyway, it doesn't matter.
No.
Suburban Sasquatch, $9.99 at RiffTrax.com. Get that mess. I know a lot of people are familiar with it because of Red Letter Media. You can watch the whole movie with the RiffTrax riff at RiffTrax.com. Get it. You will not be disappointed.
And now I'm kind of worried, Dave, because Connor, when this movie was released on Friday, tweeted out that this is, the weirdest movie that they've done ever at RiffTrax, but their next release is actually worse.
I'm not worried. I'm excited. That, like, so yeah, no, hey, bring it on. Bring it on, and we'll talk about it.
Oh, yes, we will definitely talk about it. Speaking of things that we will talk about, normally at this point, we would mention the Patreon and talk about the patron poll that we put up and what's going to be on it. However, at this point, we are looking at having another special guest join us in our next episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that happens, we will not be putting up the patron poll, and we will be delaying that a week.
Yes.
So we're not gonna talk about what's gonna be on there yet, because it doesn't matter, because we're not gonna be putting it up. But if you do enjoy the podcast and would like to support us, you can head to patreon.com/TrueBlueRiffCast, and you can find all the little goodies that we put up there for you. Until then, I am Jeremy. You can find me at pbandawesome.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at pbandawesome. And you can send me emails, jeremy@trueblueriffcast.com. And you can follow the podcast on Twitter at tbriffcast.
And I'm Dave. You can check me out on the web at sugarraydodge.com. You can send me emails at dave@trueblueriffcast.com.
And we will see you guys next time right here on the True Blue Riffcast.
Run away! Run away! Run away! Run away! Run away!